Dogmen, werewolves, lichen, and cynocephaly. You look at all of them, and then you go way back in history, and you look at the head of Anubis, and who knows where they really came from. I'm going to be going over a number of different stories today. Some of them sent in by some of our subscribers, and others were sent in other manners. I had a listener send in an experience that they did not want to give any inclination as to their name, who they are, or where they're from. I, for one, can understand why they wouldn't want to have any of that information given up. They asked me if I would mind giving a story reading type of flair to their experience. So I said yes, I would give a shot at it. On a crisp autumn morning, a seasoned deer hunter set out in the woods, eager for a fruitful day of hunting. The forest was alive with the usual sounds of nature, but as the day wore on, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It started with subtle noises, twigs snapping, leaves rustling, but every time he turned around, there was just nothing. Nothing was there. And as the sun began to set, those noises began to get more pronounced, more deliberate. The hunter, now on edge, realized that he wasn't alone. The sense of being watched turned into a terrifying certainty as he caught a glimpse of a massive, shadowy figure between the trees. It was a creature unlike anything he'd ever seen. A dog man standing upright with a mix of black and gray fur and eyes that burned like fiery embers. Panic set in as the creature revealed itself fully, its powerful body moving swiftly through the underbrush, closing the distance between them. The hunter's survival instincts kicked in, and as he bolted, sprinting through the woods, his heart started pounding through his chest. He could hear the creature behind him, its heavy footfalls shaking the ground, its breath hot on his neck. He ran harder than he'd ever have, the darkness of the forest pressing in on him. He knew that the only chance he had was to reach his truck, and he pushed himself beyond his limits. The hunter could hear the dogman snarling just yards behind him, but he didn't dare look back. He could almost feel its claws reaching for him as he burst throughout the trees and threw himself into his truck, slamming the door shut just in time. But the nightmare wasn't over. The dogman crashed into the side of the truck with the force that nearly flipped it over, its massive body denting the metal, shattering the windows, and ripping at the doors with its terrifying strength. The hunter fumbled with his keys, finally managing to start the engine and gun the accelerator. The creature held on, its claws tearing into the truck's frame, trying to rip it apart even as the vehicle sped down the dirt road. It wasn't until the truck hit a sharp turn, throwing the dogman off balance, that the hunter managed to shake it loose. He sped away, the creature's fiery eyes burning into his memory, the sounds of its howls fading into the distance. The hunter made it home, but the encounter left him deeply shaken. The image of the dogman haunted his dreams, its fiery eyes constant reminder of the terror that he barely escaped. He thought he would never go back to those woods again, the experience leaving him scarred in ways that he never fully healed. But 2 weeks later, although still haunted by the encounter, the hunter couldn't let it go. Determined to confront the terror that had nearly ended his life, he enlisted the help of his two closest friends. They were seasoned outdoorsmen, each armed with high-powered rifles loaded for bear, ready to face whatever was lurking in those woods. The trio set out at dawn, their plan simple: track down the creature and end the nightmare once and for all. The day passed quietly, the forest almost mocking their presence with its serene beauty. They scoured the woods, searching for any sign of the beast, but the daylight hours yielded nothing unusual. The hunter began to wonder if it had all been a horrific dream, if the terror he had faced was just a figment of his imagination. But as the sun dripped below the horizon, the forest changed. The air grew thick with an unnatural stillness, and once again that familiar dread settled in. The hunter's heart began to race as the shadows lengthened, and then, just like before, the sounds began: snapping branches, heavy footfalls, the unmistakable presence of something powerful and deadly stalking them. This time, though, it wasn't just one dogman. Emerging from the darkness were four massive figures, their eyes glowing with that same fiery orange intensity. The hunter recognized the leader, the one that had chased him before, but now it had brought reinforcements. The pack moved in unison, their low growls vibrating through the air, cutting off any chance of escape. Panic surged through the group, but the hunter's brother, who had driven them there in his truck, shouted for all of them to fall back. They retreated, firing shots in the dark, but it only seemed to enrage the creatures. The dogmen charged, their powerful limbs propelling them forward with terrifying speed. The hunters barely managed to hold them off as they scrambled towards the truck, the beasts closing in with every step. They reached the truck just in time, diving inside and slamming all of the doors shut. But like before, the dogmen attacked with fiery ferocity. The truck rocked violently as the creatures slammed into it one by one, their claws tearing into the metal, shattering windows and denting the frame. The leader of the pack, the one with the fieriest of eyes, leapt onto its hood, its massive jaws snapping just inches from the windshield, looking specifically at the original hunter. The hunter's brother floored the gas pedal, the truck lurching forward as the beast clung on, ripping and tearing at the vehicle. The men fired out the broken windows, desperately trying to fend off their attackers. The truck swerved wildly, smashing through the underbrush, and finally, with a jarring turn, they managed to shake off the last dogman. They didn't stop driving until they were miles away out of the forest, the truck barely holding together. The once pristine vehicle was now a mangled wreck, people driving by staring with jaws hitting the floor of their own vehicles. The metal twisted and torn, the windows all shattered, and the engine wheezing its last breaths. The men were shaken to their core, their bodies bruised and bloodied, but they were alive. As the truck finally gave away its last bellows of life, they pulled in, barely making it to a gas station. As they sat in silence, the hunters knew one thing for certain: they would never, ever return to those woods. The forest belonged to those dogmen, and any attempt to reclaim it would end in death. The men swore a pact right then and there to never set foot in those cursed woods again. They had barely escaped with their lives, and they would not tempt fate a second time. This story was sent to me from a viewer, and it is about Nick Redfern's article that he wrote on January 10th, 2018. The Wolfen. and the Dogman phenomena. A couple of nights ago, I finished reading Whitney Strieber's 1978 book, The Wolfen, which just happened to be Strieber's very first novel. I first read it when I was a kid. It's an absorbing, entertaining, and atmospheric novel, which was turned into a movie in 1981 starring Albert Finney, Diane Venora, and Gregory Hines. The back cover text to the edition I have read as follows, and which will give you a good taste of the flavor of the story. They can stare into our souls. They know the color of our fear, the hidden weaknesses of our bodies. In the darkness, they can see where we are blind. They can tear the scream from your throat. Without giving away too much of the story, I'll tell you that it's set in New York, with the two main characters being detectives Becky Neff and George Wilson of the NYPD. When a couple of police officers are brutally murdered, their bodies torn to pieces, and even partially eaten, the pair is tasked with investigating the gruesome affair. It turns out that the attackers are not just dangerous and deadly, they're not even human. In fact, they are the likes of which most people have never, ever seen. As the story progresses, and again, while still trying not to give away too much in case you want to read the book or watch the movie, we learn that the killings are the work of highly intelligent, powerful, ruthless killers that will do all they can to survive and thrive, and to ensure that humankind does not find out about them. The Wolfen are extremely skilled at avoiding the human race, preying on the homeless and those who will never be missed. And they have done a very good job of being perceived as nothing than the stuff of fantasy and folk tales. But those aforementioned shape shifting abilities, full moon and silver bullets, play no role in the matter whatsoever, as far as we know. In the light of all this, I wonder if Strieber, in writing his novel, unknowingly told in fiction the story of creatures that just might exist in the real world. Like the Wolfen themselves, the Dogmen are not classic body morphing werewolves of fantasy, but also like the Wolfen of the fictional world, perhaps the Dogmen too have played some sort of role in the development of the werewolf mythology and folklore. Controversial and wild? Well, hell yeah. But imagine the scenario of highly intelligent animals, perhaps offshoots of the wolf, but which are far more evolved, and which, as with the wolfen, are largely dismissed by most people. To partially quote Mark Twain, truth is stranger than fiction. Maybe in this case, though, truth and fiction are one and the same. In a very strange and sinister way, of course. That was an excellent article by Nick Redford, so thank you to him. I'm going to be reading some of his stuff in the future. The next story comes to us by Paul Seaburn, written on November 15th, 2014. In less than a month, there have been two reports of Dogman sightings, one in its traditional Michigan stomping grounds and one in East Texas. Is Dogman becoming more active? Is it moving to a warmer climate? Does it have a new publicist? Who or what exactly is Dogman? The Dogman is usually described as a bipedal humanoid creature with the head of a dog or wolf and the body of a man or hairy man like beast. Stories of werewolves and dog like cryptids in Michigan date back to the late 1700s. According to Linda S. Godfrey, one of my greatest inspirations, a dogman researcher, she was so much more. She refers to it as an upright canine. That's a dogman full time, not a shapeshifter. It's fully canine, walks on its hind legs, uses its forelimbs to carry chunks of roadkill or deer carcasses, They have pointed ears on top of their heads. They have big fangs. They have bushy tails. Well, not all of them. They walk, most tellingly, digigrade or on their toe pads, as all canines do, and that's something that a human in a fursuit really can't duplicate. Dogman sightings in Michigan and nearby states included an 1887 report by lumberjacks, a 1938 incident around the Muskegon River where a man was attacked by a dog walking on two legs, and three sightings in 1993 and 1994 by a teenage boy in Grand Haven. There are two famous hoaxes associated with the Dogman. A disc jockey in Traverse City recorded a song about a dogman as an April Fool's prank, and he got dozens of reports of sightings. In 2007, an 8mm film popped up of what appeared to be a dogman taken in the 1970s, called the Gable film. It was proven to be a hoax. This week, an unnamed man sent this picture to musician Dale Boswell, taken in the woods of eastern Texas, showing what he said is either a Bigfoot or a dogman kneeling by a tree with a dead animal, possibly a small deer or a wild boar over its shoulder. Texas dogman? Dogman? Bigfoot? Chupacabra? Werewolf? Hoax? Whatever it is, it's not legitimate until there's a reality show based on finding it. I want to thank Paul Seaburn for writing that November 15th, 2014. The next article comes from Brent Swanser, written on April 14th, 2021. Mysterious and frightening cases of dogman attacks. One of the strangest phenomena in the realm of the paranormal and cryptozoology is that of supposed real werewolves, and in particular that of what is known as the dogman. Much like Bigfoot, these appear as hulking, massive mountains of fur and muscle. Yet, rather than ape, like they are described as having decidedly canine features, often with a tail and of alternating between walking on 2 feet or all fours. They have been sighted in a range of locations and serve to really go out into the truly outlandish. Yet, for as weird and scary as all of this is, even more frightening are the scattered reports of these spooky entities actually attacking people. One very weird report of an apparent dogman attack of some form comes from the site Beyond Creepy and occurred in the country of Mexico. The person who made the report says that it happened to his uncles as they were driving a cargo truck through a rather remote jungle area at night. As they made their way along the rough and rugged, unpaved road, something very large and heavy reportedly jumped into the back of their truck. And the person telling the account says of what happened next. They didn't stop to see what it was because there were no lights on the road. My uncle on the passenger side saw this devilish creature that looked like a dog climbing closer to the cabin of the truck. They said the thing was huge. My uncles both screaming in fear when they saw it. They said they tried to shake the truck, but it would not fall off until they hit it against a tree on the opposite side of the road/path. They kept driving all night till the morning, all freaked out. When they got to a gas station in a village, they saw gash marks and not handprints, but animal prints on the windows where it was trying to get in and on the back of the trailer. They told their story to some of the villagers and farmers, and they told them that dogmen like demons roam those areas. And they were not the only ones who have been attacked before. They were so freaked out The hair on both arms rises, even telling their experience. They said they will never drive through Central America besides the cities or villages at night ever again. I wish I could have recorded them telling the stories myself. They have died already, but even before they died, they stuck with what happened to them, and they never did drugs and were not alcoholics or any craziness at all. They just saw what they saw.